Drag racing fan, it is in studio, back from PRI, the Monday Morning Racer, live with Between the Slicks. Hey, I see some of those like buttons already firing off. Hit that like button, hit the share button, just as I am doing right now, looking down on the phone and hitting the share button to my own personal page. Hit that like button, hit the share button. Make sure to subscribe to the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel as well. Welcome to the Monday Morning Racer audience here for this Thursday night edition, regular edition, you could say, of the Between the Slicks. Hello to the Competition Plus audience as well. And tonight, I'm looking forward to who we will have on. That individual I will share with you in just a moment of who, but I do want to say the plan was originally to have Tim Hall on of the Southeast Gassers Association. He is ill. He's under the weather. He's the Seagas champion, had a stellar year. Wanted to talk with him again. Already talked to him earlier in the year, but he was under the weather. So, Tim, look, man, you're out there. Get better. We'll have you on the show, Lord willing, next week. So, Tim Hall next Thursday. But this gentleman, Trevor Larking, he was nice enough to say, yeah, man, I can step in. I'll take the opportunity to come on Between the Slicks and talk to you about drag racing. And Trevor is certainly one cool cat. He's got some great hair, wears some good shades himself, got some swag to him, and he drives for Mr. Gregg Lawrence and that A Fuel Ride, Gregg Racing. He's also going to be on later. So we'll have driver, car owner, and we're going to talk about drag racing. They love it. They're passionate about it, and it's certainly going to be good to talk with these two gentlemen, and in particular Trevor, before Gregg coming on, but Gregg will come on, Mr. Lawrence, and we'll talk A-Field drag racing in the Lucas Oil division in the NHRA. Excited to chat with him. I have chatted with him briefly, like at PRI. I've chatted with him briefly at Pomona. But to have a bit of an in-depth chat, haven't really had the opportunity to do that. So certainly looking forward to that tonight on Between the Slicks. Let me go to the comment section real quick. Blake from Blake from Wyoming, I am assuming. Hi, Lee. How you doing tonight? I'm doing great. Doing great. Chris Derby, T-Rev, let's go. Okay, interesting, T-Rev. I'll have to keep that in mind. Ask, where does T-Rev come from, being a nickname there. MMR, nice to hear from some of the A-Fuel guys. Well, Drag Racing Central, you know, right here on Between the Slicks, we like to talk to everybody. It is not just NHRA-centric, though there's a lot of NHRA racers on because NHRA is very large. But we have had from Funny Car Chaos, we have had No Prep. We have had NHRA. We've had the WDRA, the first interview with Don Scott, the owner of the WDRA, the new sanctioning body out there in drag racing. We've had super fans, from promoters to track owners to people in the media and behind the scenes. So Between the Slicks, hence the name, everything happening within the world of drag racing. So, yes, Trevor Larkin, will be chatting with him momentarily around 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m., I believe, for all of you out there in California on the Pacific Coast. Speaking of having people on, I want to say, before we move further, moving the drag news and the burn down segment, I want to say thank you once again to Scott Performance Wires. They gave me a great setup at the PRI show to be able to go live 3 times from the PRI show. And going live 3 times, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you that viewed and watched and liked and shared and commented, because when I put together all of the views for Between the Slicks, day 1, day 2, day 3, from the Performance Racing Industry Trade Show 2022, live from the Scott Performance Wire booth, it comes to roughly 7,000 views over those 3 days. Thank you for that. From from Facebook views to YouTube views to Twitter views, roughly 7,000 views. Thank you for tuning in right here on Between the Slicks. And please tell others about the conversations we're having about drag racing right here on Thursday night on Monday Morning Racer. I want you involved. I want to hear from you. We're going to definitely give opportunity to that coming up in drag news. I want to hear your thoughts. It was a good PRI. It was a busy PRI, though. I did not get as much done as I desired to get done because I got a lot done. And I thought I was going to have more time to do this, to do that. But it was 6 live shows, several canned interviews. I even have more interviews for Funny Car Chaos to get out that have not come out yet on the Funny Car Chaos pages. So busy, but it was a great time here with my co-host Slam and Sam for a Competition Plus Power Hour. Larry Dixon, we got to have him come on once again. See me there enjoying some type of chuckle from Sam and Larry. And though it's not pictured here, I was able to chat with, for the first time ever, huge fan of him, Scotty Cannon. That was a whole lot of fun. Josh Hart, what a revealing time it was with him on Between the Slicks for the first time ever. I believe that was a great conversation with Josh Hart at the Scott Performance Wire booth. And got to talk to Justin Ashley, go over his season and what they are expecting for 2023. Big news from Jim Dunn Racing. Always enjoy chatting with Jana, and revealed that she is to be eventually one day an opportunity to drive that nitro-burning funny car. Ida Zetterstrom, all the way over from the far north of Europe at the PRI show. She was my first guest on Thursday for show number 1 from the PRI show. She's also been on the show before in an earlier episode this year. Always enjoy talking with Ida. And Mr. and Mrs. Dave Morris, they came up to me and were like, man, we love the show. We watched all the time, and it's just cool to meet you. Well, it was cool to meet them, and they snagged this photo. Katie Signs, always enjoy talking to her. She does some hospitality, works in PR, does a lot out there in the drag racing world, but certainly a cute one out there in the pits. Always good to hang out with the cute ladies. And then Mr. Free of Drag Champ, fascinating conversation with him on Friday here on Between the Slicks at the Scott Performance Wires booth. We talked about sportsman drag racing, which I really feel like I don't get enough in here on the show. I recognize that. Bracket racing is an important part of drag racing, and I wish that I get more in. There's just, drag racing is so diverse, which is a good thing. It's hard to get it all in. That's also why on Tuesday nights you can see the Going Bracket Racing guys airing on the Monday Morning Racer Facebook page. And then John Dunn. Again, that big announcement made by Jim Dunn Racing, Alex Laughlin going to be going over and willing their funny car in 2023. Enjoy talking with John. John is though he is the Dunn that is probably least known. You know, you got Jim Dunn, you got Mike Dunn, you even got Jana. John really keeps so much of it going and moving forward. And he designed the liveries, and he works on the car, and he sets up the marketing programs, things of that nature. John is a crucial part to Jim Dunn Racing. Always a joy to chat with him at the track. And that was the first time having him on camera and chatting with him in a show type setting ever. And that was the Competition Plus Power Hour. So great PRI 2022 for myself, the Monday Morning Racer. And it is the plan that some of the people that I talk to maybe be able to pick up some sponsors for this show and the Monday Morning Racer platform. And I say that if you're out there and you want to partner with me with what I'm doing, or partner with a team I'm working with, from covering the Southeast Gasser Association to be an official sponsor with Funny Car Chaos, Buddy Hole, Doug Foley, sponsoring Between the Slicks, or any of the other racing action that I may get that goes on the YouTube channel, Monday Morning Racer, reach out, mondaymorningracer@gmail.com, and let me know how you might be able to help. I'll entertain any amount as long as it can also truly help you in your marketing endeavors. Again, though, to each and every one of you that watch regularly and like regularly and share regularly and are subscribers of the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel, thank you. PRI was certainly a success. For Scott Performance Wire, for Monday Morning Racer, nearly a combined 7,000 views for Between the Slicks. Thank you. Let's go to the comment section once again. Trevor tonight, that's great. Yes, it's going to be great, Sam, here in just about 20 minutes or so. Alex to Funny Car Chaos, No Prep Kings to Australia, World Series Pro Mod to CBS, crazy PRI. It was big. PRI was big, and a lot of great announcements were made there for sure. From the CBS for World Series of Pro Mod, Alex to Jim Dunn Racing, No Prep Kings to Australia. You have announcements such as Buddy Hole picking up a primary sponsorship with Moonshine, Methanol Moonshine, and you have increasing partners with Antron Brown. The list goes on and on. Big for drag racing for sure at the PRI show. Well, let's take a break, and then we're going to dive into drag news. A lot of news out there in the world of drag racing that's even separated from PRI. The news cycle in drag racing truly never does stop. It seems like we actually don't really have an off season. What do you think? Take a break right now. Power-Built Tools exemplifies innovation in the tool industry. From hand tools, power tools, and even tool storage. Check out powerbuilt.com for Power-Built Tools. And remember, use promo code MMR15 for 15% off at purchase. All right, episode 122 of Between the Slicks Drag News. Let's dive into it. First of all, I'll take Sam's comment. Any update with crew chief for Tasca? The only thing I know concerning Tasca and crew chief is that Aaron Brooks, who was tuning for Doug Foley, he is going to be there with Tasca. I don't know if there's going to be a tandem situation. I don't know if it's going to be just Aaron as a lone crew chief. That's typically not the norm. It hasn't even been the norm for Tasca. So Aaron Brooks moves to the Tasca operation. And yes, that does leave an opening at Foley Lewis Racing. Doug Foley told me that they think that they're close to a deal, but I haven't heard from him since PRI. And there hasn't been any announcement in form to me to roll out on the social media platforms for him. So I don't know. That's still up in the air as well. But yes, Tasca will have Aaron Brooks tuning. Who else involved? I have not heard. I am not sure as of yet. When we look into the drag news for this cycle from the PRI show, I first want to mention and say thank you and congratulations and job well done to Coletta Motorsports, Coletta Air, DHL. They donated, as you can see here, $75,000. That comes out roughly to 750,000 meals for Feeding America program. They donated this and gave the big check to the Chicago office to help feed people in need that are hungry. And this was a great program put together by Coletta Motorsports to have an impact. I love it when professional sports, with all the money that's going in and out, decide to take their time and their money and their efforts, not just to go and win, but win for others, if you will. Win in the community and give something back directly, and not just entertainment for the value of which I purchased a ticket. And they did exactly that. Coletta Motorsports did. 750,000 meals for those in need, how this program worked. Basically, the last quarter of the season, for every win light, there was a donation made. It could have been that much more for Coletta Motorsports had they had that many more win lights, and that would have been great to see. But this was a good move by Coletta Motorsports. Definitely gives them some positive news in a time that has been challenging for them. I think we all expect Coletta Motorsports to perform better in 2023 and to excel. To see J.R. Todd, Sean Langdon, and especially Doug Coletta higher in the rankings and turning on that many more win lights. But a program like what they did with Feeding America, it would be nice to see others doing exactly this and bringing awareness. And that's not to say you have teams not doing that. I think one of the movements that is very well represented in motorsports wide, but definitely drag racing, would be breast cancer awareness. But finding programs like this and doing programs like that, that is big, and that's something the sport needs to continue to do and work on. Ron Capps Motorsports, they have announced that Tom Buckingham, he will move to assistant crew chief. That's Mr. Buckingham right there. He has been a car chief for the past 5 years, even working with Jack Beckman and Ron Capps. John Medlin, he retired here at the end of the 2022 season. That left a void on that tuning combo with Guido Dean Antonelli, and he is going to step up, Mr. Tom Buckingham, to assistant crew chief with Ron Capps Motorsports. So that is a good move, and I like that move because it is doing within. It's not just going out trying to find somebody and bring them in, but promoting within. Cruz Petragon Racing, they did that with Ryan Elliott, moving him up to assistant crew chief, and he had been a car chief for years in the sport. So I like seeing in organizations outside of racing and within racing, and especially drag racing, promoting within. I think that is a smart move when it can be done. Drag Racing Central, JR has said he's been listening to them podcasts to help his team. He's actually, from what I understand, referring him and Langdon directly to Brian Loans and Brian Loans' podcast. So put that together. That makes it even funnier, I think. You got Brian Loans on the stage and those two on the stage. That is what the reference was. Brian's podcast. Which one in particular? I doubt it was Dork Motive, but you got the NHRA Insider podcast that Brian is over and does. I think it's referring to that one. So I'm going to go a couple of episodes back and see what might have been stated and might have been said. But from what I was told, it was a direct reference to a podcast and Brian Loans doing that broadcast. Now, I may be wrong. The person told me might be wrong. But if that's the case, I think that's even funnier, the situation there on stage. I believe that was, yes, Friday, PRI on the NHRA stage. Good news in drag racing. JEGS will still be active in the NHRA, in particular on the Troy Coughlin Jr. Elite Motorsports NHRA Camping World Pro Stocker. JEGS.com will still be with Junior, Troy Coughlin Jr. for 2023. He was able to pick up his first win this season, and it is great to see that combination together. When JEGS was sold, and it was sold, there were many thinking that JEGS would not be in the sport in a major way in 2023. Personally, I was one of them. This is something that I'm surprised to see, but I am certainly glad that I was wrong. We still have JEGS in the sport in a big way and on a car. It just makes sense. I will say this, though. There are other marketing partners on that car. And I don't know about you, but I want to see a full White Castle Pro Stocker. Maybe it happens in Ohio. Maybe it happens in Indy. Maybe it happens in just other states where White Castle is. But I want to see a Troy Coughlin Jr. White Castle Pro Stocker. I think that would look good. The orange, the white, the blue on a Pro Stock car. I think that could be a good looking livery out there on the drag strip. So I vote for at least one race, at least one, to be a full White Castle Pro Stocker. And it would be even better if they had them in the pits, and you could get the little burgers in the pits and get like 24 of them like they sell, and just, and go through the pits and, yeah, that's my vote. White Castle in the pits, on the car, and a coupon to your local White Castle. I think it's good. I think it's a good promo. I got it right here. Okay. Do it. Continuing in drag news, John Force Racing announces that they will have Chevy as a partner for the next 3 years. Chevrolet General Motors will continue to partner with John Force, Robert Height, Brittany Force, and Austin Prock. 2 funny cars, 2 top fuel dragsters. Understand this. Out of John Force's 155 total wins, 77 of them were done, completed, earned, won in a General Motors product. Not all of it Chevy. We're talking about also, Oldsmobile is in there, Pontiac is in there. But nonetheless, General Motors, 77 wins out of his 155 wins. That is a good total for General Motors in partnership with John Force. But John Force, Chevrolet, John Force Racing, next 3 years, we will continue to see a Chevrolet, well, as of right now, Camaro with John Force Racing. It will be interesting to see what happens with the Camaro and what happens with the funny car body. The Camaro is to be phased out. So what holds in the future for John Force Racing and those funny car bodies from General Motors? What will be approved for the future, if anything? Or maybe they will hold on for the next 3 years until there's something else. I don't know. We'll see. But that is going to be an interesting development as well. Jim Oberhofer, he is heading down under to Australia to do some tuning for Jim Reed Racing. He's done this often, and this happens in the world of drag racing routinely with many other tuners. But race 3 and 4 in the Australian Fuel Championship, Jimmo is going to be down in Australia, down under the crew chief for Clay Milliken. And I wanted to bring that up because I think with Jimmo making that move, and I can remember Camp Stanley, who tunes in Funny Car Chaos earlier this, going across seas. Anyway, it's not uncommon for American tuners to go overseas and do tuning in Great Britain, to do tuning in Europe, to do tuning in Australia. And I think, again, that's another sign we're getting closer and closer to normal. And that is a good thing. These people taking international trips, which, just 2 years ago, there were no international trips, it seemed. Now they're doing it, and things are coming back to how they were, at least in the world of motorsports and drag racing. And that is good to see. Big news from PRI. We have talked about it, but I want to talk about it again. Wes Buck with a huge panel. Victor Alvarez there, owner of Bradenton Motorsports Park. Melanie Salemi, a winner of the Snowbird Nationals. Lyle Barnett, winner of the NHRA U.S. Nationals in Pro Mod. Tommy Franklin right there, a Pro Nitrous champion in PDRA. They announced at the World Series of Pro Mod, by the way, tickets are on sale now, they will air to CBS Sports, and it will be done by this legend, Ted Jones. Yes, the Ted Jones from IHRA days. Definitely he knows his Pro Modified. Masters Entertainment Group, which he owns, he heads. They are going to be putting that production together to air on CBS. Now, understand, CBS Sports. It will not be a live production. It will be a tape delayed. It will air later beyond the actual running of the World Series of Pro Mod, and to be announced yet, the streaming partner for the World Series of Pro Mod. I imagine that it's going to be Flow Racing, though. So it's going to be streamed. It's going to be shown on CBS Sports. And I imagine that Wes Buck is still going to be favorable to like wee little YouTubers such as myself and Straight Line Media and the Limo Guy at Large and others to get the action out there for everyone to enjoy. The World Series of Pro Mod, very cool deal that's going to be able to make some ripples into the CBS Sports Motorsports catalog. I don't have CBS Sports. I have DirecTV, and we don't have that package where you have CBS Sports. That's going to be the case for many other people. So make sure, check your package. You might want to up it to get it during the World Series of Pro Mod running for a month and a half or two, and then go back to the other package. But I know that when I did have CBS Sports for a time, their motorsports was mainly dirt track racing, and you'd see tractor pulling. You might see drag boat racing, but drag racing, the normal variety, if you will, there wasn't that much representation. So it's good to see on CBS Sports, the World Series of Pro Mod will be airing, and it will air after the race, in fact. Moving on very quickly. Defend Bradenton's racetracks. The Freedom Factory, Bradenton Motorsports Park, they're in essence on the same location. They're right next to each other. They're in Bradenton, Florida, and that is in Manatee County, Florida. The best update that I can give you is, honestly, when you're done watching Between the Slicks, don't you go nowhere. Go to Cletus McFarland's YouTube channel. There is a video that just dropped about, it'd be 50 minutes ago, an hour ago, and he describes what happened today. So there is a rezoning effort with all the agricultural land around Bradenton Motorsports Park and the Freedom Factory to rezone it where they can have a development, a major development. We're talking about thousands of homes. Well, that did pass today, and it did pass to go to the state to be approved. But if you watch Cletus McFarland's video, the response was positive for the tracks. Every council member said, we are going to do what is necessary to save and preserve these tracks. They said it in their own way. In essence, though, they all said that. And they recognized the importance. And Cletus McFarland mentioned that he talked with the developer, the guy, and they were already discussing ways in which how they could have a mutually beneficial cooperative relationship as a developer and as a long-standing properties in racing, such as Bradenton Motorsports Park and the new success of the Freedom Factory. In my very quick and brief burn down segment, I do believe, though, that when situations like this arise, what happened is exactly what has got to happen. Cletus McFarland, Victor Alvarez, drag racers from around the country and racers from around the country come together and make sure their voices are heard before a local board and or council. I also think it should go further. And tracks, it would be wise to have from like the PRI group to get lawyered up and have legislation in place to preserve tracks. And I don't mean to preserve them even if they're a dysfunctional business, but if they are a functional, thriving business, put something in the works and in the books that allow you to stay there no matter what happens and is developed around you. There are those situations. For example, many municipal tracks, such as the Nashville Fairgrounds, it is within that lease and part of the fairgrounds charters, if you will, that they must race. They will have some type of racing there. It may not be NASCAR Cup, but there will be racing there. I think you have a very similar situation with the track that is at the Fairplex in Pomona. tracks that are privately owned definitely need to look in. How can they cooperatively work with their municipality to preserve themselves for the future? And that is why it's also important. Tracks, track owners, track managers, and racers, you definitely need to have good relationships with the community as much as possible as you can. Because in times like this, having good relationships is paramount, and it will help you in the long run. And it sounds like, from what Cletus McFarland said on his video, that the positivity that was there, you're only going to get that if there are good relationships and you have a council and you have a community that understands the value of what racing and two great tracks like Bradenton Motorsports Park and the Freedom Factory bring to the community. All right, very quickly, I'm going to dive into the comment section, and then we're going to get Trevor on. He is waiting in the green room. Sam asks, is the rumor of RL coming out with a funny car team true? RL Carriers, is that what you're referring to, Sam? And if it is RL Carriers, then I would say, no, I have not heard that directly. But don't count out Josh Hart doing, well, anything. If I do remember, actually, on Competition Plus one time, he did mention that it's possible to bring out another vehicle. And he also has already a factory stock car, maybe not ready to go, but it's in the works, and he could bring that out at some point as well. Chevelle coming back to GM line in 2024, maybe a Chevelle body in NHRA soon. Hey, that could be the case. That could be the case. Dragster Jeff Kreider, Cletus 2. Cletus McFarland, check his YouTube out. I'm not sure what his YouTube is exactly. I think it's Cletus, is it right? DRC would know. Put it in there. Put it in there to somebody. As someone who lost to racetrack, fans need to do all they can to prevent this from happening. I agree. And there was a great turnout. Like 15,000 emails went out to Manatee County. That was big. And Dragster Jeff Kreider says, anyone can email the supervisors, and Cletus has their email addresses on his Cletus 2 channel. Yes, and he's also got them linked in the videos as well. So, yes, you can email them. Now, what the video explains is the vote, it was passed, and it was passed in favor for the development, and it goes to the state. There's going to be development. But the council did say certain things have to be worked out between the tracks and the development. So, it's positive. It sounds like it's going to work out. All right. We're going to continue to move forward. We're going to take a break. And next show, I'm going to have to show you Destroyer 1320, the theft deterrent systems. You're about to see the commercial for it. Proof that they work. Testimonial video of a gentleman's Hellcat saved. The inside, the console area was completely destroyed, but the thief could not get the plate off, therefore could not pull the neutral release strap, and that man still has his Hellcat, all because of Eric and his ingenious yet simple design of these neutral release covers, the TDS. Theft deterrent systems. If you've got a modern muscle car, or even just your modern ride, you need to check in with him, and you need to check your car, and you need to protect it with one of those covers, the TDS. From Destroyer 1320, a word, and then Mr. Trevor Larkin here on Between the Slicks.
If you own a beautiful modern muscle car like this 1320 Challenger, I'm sure you don't want it stolen. Because the Challenger and many other modern vehicles have an easily accessible neutral release strap. That was your coin holder in your central console, and beneath that there's this red cord that someone can pop, put it in the neutral, and potentially easily steal your car. But at Destroyer1320.com, they have the TDS theft deterrent system, which is a cover over that strap using factory mounting points so that you don't get popped by a thief. So make sure to go to destroyer1320.com using promo code MMR for 15% off and get your theft deterrent system TDS and steal the thieves' hope.
Trevor Larkin, man, welcome to Between the Slicks.
James, how are you, man?
Man, I'm doing great. And, it's kind of funny. As I recall, the first time we met, it was at Pomona. I believe it was the Winter Nationals. And you walked up to me and you're like, hey, I know who you are. And I'm like, hey, I know who you are. But we had never actually talked before. So
right.
You're doing a great job out there on social media with your team. Y'all got a lot of coolness and swagger to you. And you guys love drag racing. So keep up the good work.
We do.
But let's start. Why drag racing? I've got to ask everybody that. Why drag racing? How did you get into it?
I got in because of my father. My father was a pioneer of the sport back in the 60s down in Southern California. So I had everyone wants to be just like their first heroes, their dad. And that was me. I wanted to be like my dad, and I grew up around drag racing.
Okay, talk to me. Pioneer, what was he in? What was he involved in? What class? What was he doing?
So back in the day, there was two Tom Larkins. Big Tommy Larkin, who was a smaller, slender guy who drove Top Fuel. And there was little Tommy Larkin, who was my father, who was, I think, 16 or 17 when he started driving. And he was known as Little Tommy Larkin. So Big Tom took Little Tom under his wing and said, hey, you should, he helped, my dad helped on the Top Fuel car. And then there was a time where he started, I want to drive too. So he started driving in, I believe it's just a little, like a top gas car, just in comp eliminator kind of deal. And then he moved to a blown gas car. And it's kind of cool to if you come to California, you got to come check out, especially you, James, you got to come check out the California Hot Rod Reunion, as well as the Nitro Revival that happens in Irwindale, put on by Steve and Cindy Gibbs. That is an experience. If you're a fan of the nostalgia racing in itself, that is something to come to and go, wow, there is literally walking, living history walking all around you and mingling with you. It's pretty substantial event to come to.
Dude, look, it is on my list. I see people post things and I'm just like, I'm missing out. And it just, schedule-wise and sometimes living on the other side of the United States, you just miss out on some cool things elsewhere. And some of those things are, yes, the California Hot Rod Reunion and the Nitro Revival. My buddy, American Hot Rod Entertainment, Darren Williams Jr., he was able to attend both this year. Yep. It looks like he had a blast, and it is on my list. Along with March Meet, it is on my list to get those under my belt and cover those events and experience them. What makes them so great? You're a younger guy. Why go back and experience all that old stuff? I know for me why, but why for you?
I think it helps preserve the history of the sport. Not, you don't you don't see any old NASCAR races happening. You don't see any old, it's here. I don't think there is. I mean, there might be, but if there is, you don't hear about it unless you're really into that world of stuff. But it's so fun because all these guys, people are building cars just to cackle them. I have one in my garage. It's so fun just to come out and go, it's kind of like, isn't that a lot of wasted time, money, and effort? Yeah, but it's for the fans. The fans appreciate it. I heard my dad say this one time. He goes, this sport is a traveling circus. Every city is a new city. Every town has new fans. And if it's the circus, maybe some people like the lions, and some people like the clowns, and some people like the trapeze. Well, those are your classes. There's the dragsters, the fun cars, the pro stock. There's that kind of stuff that you need to plant those seeds in those fans, whether they're 5 years old or 50 years old. You can still make a new fan in drag racing, even at 50. And it comes to nowadays there's social media and this kind of stuff like we're doing here that can help get that ripple effect that goes outward. But you still have to do the effort. it's up to the racers and the people that are behind the scenes to give those fans that experience to hey, we're going to fire the car. You want to come watch? You're going to do this. Hey, here's a T-shirt. Hey, little kid, let's put you in the car. There's all that kind of stuff. Kids went nuts for spark plugs this year. I gave away so many spark plugs. I need to up my NGK order next year.
Oh, getting those NGK spark plugs out, and hey, maybe they're being used in lawnmowers to make some side cash for all those kids. You never know.
That'd be one high-powered lawnmower, yes.
It would be. It would be one power lawnmower for sure. So, Trevor, a little bit about your past, how you got into drag racing. Your dad, obviously. Waterbug85 does want to know, did your dad get an opportunity to race at Lions Drag Strip? Was he back at that time?
I believe so, yeah. So I would hear the cool stories that they could race like 5 places in one weekend. If he lived in the San Fernando Valley, so you could race San Fernando on a Friday night. If you didn't do well there, you could race Lions on a Saturday. You could race I am drawing a total blank. Riverside. There's a Riverside drag strip. Pomona was like still the twice a year thing. So there was literally 4 or 5 drag strips in Southern California where you can go race in multiple places. And if you didn't do well at one, you'd hope there was less of a field over there. There'd be 64 cars in Top Fuel.
Right.
64. Isn't that amazing? It's so cool to have that many people have that many cars. You can still drive around Southern California in the San Fernando Valley these days, and there is a 2-foot tall by 6-foot wide rectangle cut out of some old wood garage doors if it's the original owners. And that's because some of the front engine dragsters were so long, they would back them into the garage, and the front wheels would stick out the garage, and they would still shut the garage.
Yeah, it's like, well, we got it shut, and you can't take the whole car, but
yeah.
Very cool, very cool. Yes, at one time, man, Southern California, obviously the roots of drag racing, the hotbed of drag racing that it was. Well, we've got your car owner in the green room. We'll get to him in just a moment, have him on and chat to you two at the same time. Before we do that,
oh, cool.
Let's definitely take the time and dive into all that you do. You being in the A fuel car is not your first foray into drag racing. Matter of fact, a winning Funny Car Chaos machine at the Texas Motorplex, the back in black GTO funny car, you were once the pilot of that thing. So talk to me about drag racing and the way in which you moved up from where you began to now being an A fuel dragster.
Sure. 2014, I took Doug Foley's drag racing school. He had a drag racing school called Pure Speed.
Who?
Doug Foley. The Doug Foley. I got to actually say hi to him at PRI. He goes, hey, what's up, man? He goes, you moved up quickly. I go, yeah, fuck yeah, I did. Sorry. Went right through those classes real quick. But I went through Doug Foley's school, got my comp license just to have a competition license. And then literally 5 weeks later, I was in a Nostalgia Funny Car. I cross-licensed at Tucson in the back in black car. It had a 7.0 Pro motor in it, big block. I think it was a 426, but it was up on alcohol. And that car is such a beautiful car in person. It's so brilliant and bright, and you can see. I told one of the guys who bought another GTO last week at dinner, that windshield is like an HD TV. I could tell you the first 5 photographers on that side, the first 3 on this side. You can see so clear in that car. It's a very up and down windshield, as opposed to a lot of windshields in some of the nostalgia cars that are laid back or tiny or any of that kind of stuff. But such a fun ride. And I ran the 7.0 Pro category, and we did some of the SIFCA stuff with that James and Jim Mayer put on, and we also did the reunion and the March meet. The owner sold it because he was a guy that just collects cars. Great guy out of Tucson. I was just going to license in the car, and I ended up driving it for like a good 2.5 years. And then I bought my own former Top Fuel car. I bought the UPS Bob Vandergriff car from a man named Jerry Darien, very famous name in the sport. And then literally 7 to 8 days later, he says, "Hey, a guy from Oregon's going to call you. When you see his number come up, you should answer it." And I'm like, okay. And sure enough, he did. And that was Gregg Lawrence. And Gregg says, "Hey, my name is Gregg Lawrence. I got your name from Jerry. I was wondering if you want to drive my car." And I said, "Ha ha, I just bought my own car and my own trailer, my own truck, my own spares, all my stuff. I just spent a ton of money on stuff that." I was like, "Hey, very funny, And he goes, "No, I'm serious. This is Gregg Lawrence, and I'd like for you to drive my car." So I said, "Give me a day to think about this and stuff," and then the rest is history.
All right. And we're going to get Gregg on in just a moment. We'll talk to him about that side of the deal, going to you and getting you in the cockpit of the ride and dissect what the ride is from him and what the team has in its current capacity. Before we get Gregg on, though, before we move on, you are a rather talented individual because you shared with me your email. It's got music in it. And I'm like, "What? Are you a musician? What's going on?" And you're like, "Well, you designed something. You designed something really cool and big, in fact." Talk to me about designing stages for the music.
I'm a production designer, set decorator, set dresser. Like, I work in that world of making things look real or making things look desirable when you watch them on TV, on stage, on film, whatever you're doing. So yeah, I worked with Jason Aldean, I worked with Kenny Chesney, I worked with Dustin Lynch, a bunch of country artists that's their stage. But I work currently on the TV show SWAT, which airs on CBS. It's a collaboration of Sony Pictures and CBS Television. It stars Shamar Moore. I believe it's on Friday nights. I should know that, and I don't, because I watch everything on streaming because I got rid of my cable. So that's a whole nother story that I'll go into when we get Gregg on about my cable bill.
Oh boy. Yeah, the guy who is helping TV doesn't have cable. That's quite interesting. There's something there. There's something there for sure. For sure. Well, look, with that being said, let's get Gregg on as well. Mr. Gregg Lawrence, owner of Gregg Racing, the guy that, says, "Hey, I give the nod to Trevor Lawrence to get in my A Fuel ride and go drag racing." Why Trevor Lawrence, Gregg?
Trevor Larkin. Hey, I got to tell you, I'm still laughing about the fact that Trevor didn't get bleeped there when he was talking earlier. I think that's hilarious. Normally, that's me. I just think that's funny. So, yeah, I hooked up with Trevor a couple of years ago, and it takes time to learn how to drive one of these hot rods. I grew up, my dad also had a hot rod too. When I was a kid, that's what got me in. But I started by driving a Pro Mod, and it didn't go as fast. In fact, it went everywhere but straight. But it taught me how to drive. Then when I started driving a fuel car, it taught you acceleration. And I drove it for the first 14 years, had some health issues, and so I stepped out. Now I've got Trevor. So we got together, and I knew he'd driven a lot of cars, but only had license in a fuel car. And the acceleration is just disorienting. Now, he can describe it his own way, but the way it seemed to me when I drove was it accelerates so hard, it feels like you're getting rear-ended by a school bus going 100 miles an hour with your head in a paint shaker because it's violent. So he always did a great job from a safety standpoint, and that's paramount because the car's got to come back each time so he can do it again. He's been fantastic. I promise you from day one, or I wouldn't have put him in the car. He's been safe. Learning some of the nuanced things, and now we'll get to his cable bill, like reaction time and leaving on time. It takes time. So at the end of the year, last year, his reaction times, may I say, were not world-class stellar. So we talked a little bit. And I didn't think about it till we got to Pomona for the Winter Nationals this year. We put him in for Q1, and his light goes from a 1 something that didn't even matter to an 044. And I go, holy crap, what did you guess? What happened here? And I heard the story. bless his heart, Trevor canceled his cable bill, purchased a full-size Christmas tree. It's probably over his right shoulder behind him there.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it. And he told me he would come home from work 2 or 3 nights a week, and instead of watching TV, he was on that doggone tree over and over and over again. And I don't know the details. What I know is, holy crap, it worked. I have a world-class leaving driver now, and I couldn't be more happy having Trevor in my hot rod.
That is dedication to
Isn't
one
that cool?
craft right there.
That's what it takes to play at this level. You know, this isn't a second thought. Your heart and soul have to be into this, and he is. And we clicked, and we're doing real well.
Being that they're up in Salem, Oregon, and I'm in Los Angeles, California, I have to pull my weight on the team as much as these guys are. They're giving up their nights, their weekends, their holidays sometimes to put in time at the shop. I can't be like, oh, I'm working on my reaction times, and then not perform. And I said it before. It's like saying, teacher, I've been doing my math homework, but then you suck at math. It's like you've got to perform and come through on your end of the promise, the deal,
And Trevor did. His lights are awesome. So he's turned into a very credible driver that I'd put up against anybody. And now we need to give him a car that'll turn on the wind lights with it. We have all that we need to be able to do that. So I'm really looking forward to this upcoming season.
Well, that's good to hear that you expect that he's going to have everything he needs as now a capable driver. With Gregg Racing, your car, the hot rod on screen now.
That's it.
What's the history of it, and when did you purchase it? Why an A-Fuel dragster?
Yeah. So I had my Pro Mod and campaigned it last year. Was 99. I'm down in the grandstands at the World Finals, having helped out on an alcohol funny car, and I'm up there with a buddy, and we're watching the Top Alcohol Dragster class run, and this car was there. It was piloted by Melanie Troxel, and it was owned by Jerry Darian. It was the In-N-Out Burger car, and it finished number 2 in the world that year. So we're watching these cars run. My buddy says, Greg, it costs the same amount of money to run an A-Fuel car as it does a Pro Mod. And I said, nah, you're full of crap or beans, whatever. Nah, no way. We go back and forth. He goes, I also know that car's for sale. So we walked over to Jerry's pits. I sat in the car, should have never done that, and gave him a check. The rest, they say, is history. And now my bride and I, we've owned that hot rod for a long time. And I drove it for the first 14 years. But I love driving. I do. It's unbelievable. There's nothing like it. But tuning it is so challenging. And that's my passion, to make this car perform the best it can. And we've done well, but there's more there.
And speaking of the challenges of tuning, and you two being so interested and passionate about the sport, Trevor driving other vehicles, you having a Pro Mod background, we did have someone email and ask the thoughts on what is happening in the alcohol funny car ranks and the nitro injected being introduced. And though you're in the rail, what are your thoughts? What do you think about what's happening over in the flopper cousin pits?
Trevor, you want to go first? You want me to?
You go first.
Okay, here's the deal. I think that the A-Fuel funny car idea is phenomenal. It would be unbelievably successful and popular with the fans to not only have a dragster that shoots flames out 6 foot tall with a rear wing, but to have a funny car with flames. People will love it. So what's the problem? It's going to take them a little bit to get the rules settled out to where the competitors have a realistic chance to compete. I know what it takes to make these things run. And in my opinion, I don't think they're there yet with the rules, but the concept is awesome, and prayerfully they'll get there with the rules that will allow them to run competitively.
Trevor?
I got to real quick say hi to Benny. Benny's been waiting for me, and I got to say hi.
Oh,
Hi, buddy. Hey, Benny.
We have the Trevor and Benny show at the track. You got to check that out. It's awesome. Very funny.
Benny's my little mini-me at the track. So I've driven a funny car. I've driven an A-Fuel car. I'd be curious to see. I take it down the track. I don't know. The engine doesn't know The engine doesn't know where it is. I don't think you can tune it the same way you tune a dragster, though. It's got to have a whole different setup because the driver who, if you haven't driven a funny car, you drive it differently. You drive with your ass, so to say, because you're sitting between and over the rear end, and the tires are right there, and then you feel everything 10 times more than you would in a dragster when the wheels are 8 feet behind you. You just need to test it more.
So tell me this is true, Trev. In a funny car, it's not uncommon to have your wrist turn like this as you're trying to keep the front end in front of the back end. You do that in a dragster, you're going to need another car after that lap.
Yeah, you're going to show the starting line, the bottom of the car.
That's right. So
when I licensed in Vegas in Ron Anderson's car, Antron Brown, it was the Monday after the October race, Antron Brown was also testing on that Monday. He says, Trevor, put your arms out like this. So I did, and he tapped my hands this way and this way, making my hands just go like that. He goes, that's how you're going to drive this car. You don't drive it like a funny car and manhandle it because you'll be all over the track and it's finesse. And I can see Gregg. It's finesse in handling, and you just got to keep it pointed between your lane. It'll dance out in front of you. If it dances a little bit, that means it's moving.
That's right. It's hauling ass. Turn the tire.
Yeah.
But one of the things I love about Trevor is he doesn't drive over his head. And in our vernacular, I've seen so many people that are good drivers, great folks, but it gets out of shape and they stay with it too long, and you're not going to recover it at that point. So Trevor's had to abort a couple runs. One at Woodburn last year, remember that you couldn't see because we had no lights and we were running at night and we're supposed to. No lights down there at 1,000 foot or anywhere. So he clicked it off and the time suffered. But I was elated because he made the right darn call in the car as a driver. And he's never screwed that up yet. He does really well.
I'm always a hired driver, renting a seat, so to say. I can't mess up someone's car. This is their baby, whether it's Gregg or any of the other 4 people I've driven for or still drive for. And some people cherish their cars more than their kids, and so I got to be careful with that stuff.
Right. Now, Gregg, you make the statement that he is a smart driver, that he is a good driver, and even now you got a world-class driver that can leave, but you also got a driver that wears a mohawk.
There is that. We did a whole post on that this year because I didn't understand what it was for. Can I tell him we caught a little the track, Trevor, from other competitors?
Sure.
And it chapped my behind badly because I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. And so Trevor and I did this post a couple months ago, maybe, Trevor, but where we told what the story is. And there's bravado, but that's not why he did it. Trevor, you need to tell him that story. It's awesome.
So back in the nostalgia world, in the 50s and 60s, there wasn't a lot of difference in the driver's appearance. It was a silver asbestos, like my dad's right here. Silver suit. The driver's personality was in their helmet, paint schemes or whatever. There was a guy named George Hutchinson. He had a long 3-foot plume. That was his claim to fame.
Crazy.
And it added more to, I don't know how fast you can Google him, James, but his name is George Hutchinson. And then there was a gentleman named Paul Sutherland, very famous Southern California driver. He had a long rat snout on his face mask like that one there. The guys they did different things to have personality and character to their driving and their appearance in the car. Sometimes they went with the scheme of the car, whether the paints were, and everything was paint then. Nowadays, everything's vinyl and they can change sponsors on a whim on a weekend. But paint was such a cool thing.
But
there's a gentleman named Brendan.
An homage to the drivers of the past, including his dad, and nobody knew that were some of our competitors, and they were kind of talking smack. So we pushed back and said, "This is what it's for. Maybe you should pay homage to the folks that made this possible for you," and that's what Trevor did. And I'm very proud.
I didn't take it personal at all. I know why I do stuff, and I don't need to answer anybody. I'm out here to have fun. You can't put a value on fun. You know, you got to. Some people take their family to Disneyland, and that's their fun. And this is what I do. I don't care what people think.
All right, so let me set it up. Trevor
right.
Larkin, paying homage to those of a day gone by in drag racing, in the modern age, in a field, mimicking such as, look at that.
There you go.
Look at that.
That's it.
Well done. That was quick.
Yeah, awesome. Look at that.
Yep. See?
Oh, there's a Monday Morning Racer video in this. I've got to do some research. The headdresses of drag racing. And
there's a lot. I mean, there's
like, I still haven't figured out, like, Indy 65. Why is there like an Indian dude in full headdress and Indians? I gotta dive into that.
Oh,
I remember
I can answer that. I can answer that. That was the starter. It was the flag starter, and he wore an Indian headdress and whole Indian costume, and I don't know if it had something to do with keeping the rain away. There's a unspoken thing. If you fire a nitro car, the rain will come. That happens on national events and local events, whatever. I think that had something to do with that kind of stuff. So here's something for you too, James. If you watch the 7-Second Love Affair, which is the story of Rick Stewart, the former starter of the NHRA, back in the 60s, somebody did a student film on him. They followed him around for probably a month or so, and they put together this student film. It's such a great film. In that first 30 seconds, you see Paul Sutherland with his rat-nosed breather mask and stuff. There's a lot of cool things in there when they show the drivers putting their stuff on that you would never think is you know, people look back now and go, they did that? It's like, yeah this is what they did.
So now Trevor's become unbelievably popular at our home track of Woodburn, and he's turned into somewhat of a rock star there, and we have a great time. That car is so popular at that track. We've got this group of guys and gals that call themselves Nitro Fence Cats, okay? And they have RVs and they camp out down at close to the finish line, and they are rabid about nitro cars, and they seem to really enjoy ours. It's really cool.
And my biggest critics too, they say you were a little slow at the 1,000 foot there. Like yeah.
Hey, it's the top fans that are the first one in the pits. Like, dude, like, you were late.
Yeah.
Right. That's cool.
Look, no, I love that, and I didn't know that. I didn't see the post, and I just thought you were wearing a mohawk to make a statement and be cool. And if that was it, so be it. Why not?
Agreed.
But I really like that it is connected back to guys and moments back in the history of the sport. And I'm going to do some more research on that. There's
it's pretty
there.
There is. There was a gentleman named Kelly Brown. He's an old top field driver. He won Indy. Was a friend of my father's. He wore a black fire suit, black face mask, black goggles, black helmet. He looked like something from Star Wars, and that was his scheme that he did. Like, that's cool stuff to me. Like, yeah.
No, it is, and I think too. Look, bringing some character and bringing some flavor back into the sport in any which way possible is a good thing. I mean, y'all have got a sharp-looking dragster, the orange, the purples, and the yellows in there, and Trevor, you're a good-looking young guy. You got good hair. You got some swagger to you. You got the SoCal image, okay? You've got that SoCal almost greaser-esque. I've seen you in person. It's almost there, man.
I love that you said you love the car. It's about to get a livery changed in 2 weeks.
We're updating it. It's going to have a new look for the new year. Can't wait.
Well, good. And I'm sure it's going to look just as good as it does now, if not better. And speaking of a new look, any new partners coming on board?
Not new partners. We got to spend a lot of time at PR. PRI was so beneficial to us that we didn't even get to, it was 3 days long. We didn't even get to see the whole thing because we hit our current sponsors, and we got to get some tours of some top field teams, facilities, and it was, you can't buy the stuff that we get to do.
You got to be there.
There's no ticket to buy. There's no like, oh, I want to participate in that. You just got to be there and make the connections. PRI is about connections and thanking the sponsors and getting out there and being seen. If you're out there to chase the sponsors, to do all that stuff, I chased sponsors for years and did it for somebody else, a former top fuel guy, and then I do it for myself. It's night and day. It's night and day. One's top fuel. That's one part of it. But when you're doing it for yourself, it's weird to ask for money.
Yes.
It's like, or product and stuff. But I took Megan Meyer's sponsorship classes. She does a really cool online 12-week program. And I highly recommend it for anyone that's out there trying to get their foot in the door on how to talk to sponsors, what to ask for, how to ask, and when to ask. When to ask is a big part.
So now we have sponsors that are helping us that refer to what Trevor does and showed to them to other people wanting sponsorship, and they're saying, do what Trevor does. That's cool. Probably our newest sponsor, Trevor, I guess, will be Red Light Oil, and we did a post from his booth with Mark and Mark Beatty, and it was awesome. They've been unbelievably helpful, and I made the point in our video, and I'll make it here. I've run my car for a long time with good oils, but the oils that I put in every time required a secondary bottle of oil treatment that went in. When we went to Redline, I was told, you don't need that. And I thought, oh God, but what if? And I did it, and it worked. We have nothing in that oil pan but Redline oil, and it works. It's an unbelievably good product, and that's a fact. So we love that. We appreciate them. The other thing that happens is this relationship thing Trevor was talking about. I've had these vendors for a long time, but you're able to connect with them in a way in person that you can't over a phone or email. So I can tell you that the car is going to specifically benefit this year from a connection we made with an existing vendor, and the relationship and options that they gave to me, I've never had available before. I go, oh my God, you're kidding. That'd be great. If we wouldn't have been there, it wouldn't have happened.
All right. So good to hear Redline Oil on board. Many of the same partners stepping up, it even sounds like. But there are some new positions. You got a help wanted sign out there. So what are the roles? What can people step in and learn in the Nitro ranks with Gregg Racing?
Yeah, it's a good question. A lot of people that are interested think they need to come with a lot of history in Nitro racing, and it couldn't be farther from the truth. All I need is someone who, A, lives somewhere close to Salem, Oregon, because if you're in Salem, Massachusetts, it's just not going to work. You got to be somewhere close to here. So we work on the car every Saturday and evenings during the week if we're getting ready for a race coming up. So they don't need to know anything except for lefty loosey, righty tighty. That'd be good. And that there is a difference between coarse and fine threads. You come with that, I'm good. I can show you what to do. We'll give you all the tools. But you got to also know at our level, we are racing for beer and glory. So don't think you're going to get rich doing this. I haven't yet.
There it is. Beer and glory.
That's right. So you got to love doing this as we do. So when that trailer door shuts at the end of the weekend, you got to go away feeling like, man, this is awesome. I got to be a part of something way bigger than myself on this Nitro team. It's cool.
If y'all don't have that as a t-shirt, Gregg Racing, racing for beer and glory.
There it is.
That's good.
You can see it now.
Yes.
I like it.
Oh, well, okay. You said beer, racing for the beer. Trevor Larkin, Gregg Lawrence, Gregg Racing gets a win, whatever race it is. Let's just say Winter Nationals.
May it be.
What is the beer of choice?
Well, I can tell you the beer that's in the fridge is going to have to be the beer of choice because it's what we got. But it's Coors Light. But there's another little tip here. I've got a really good bottle of vodka in the freezer, and it's waiting. It's waiting for that day when we can celebrate that.
Trevor, what would your choice be?
Mine would be, so I'm a Southern California boy, and my beer of choice is 805. I've had them come on board a few times and help me out here and there, and they love my social media, and we kick back stuff once in a while, but I agree with the Coors Light, but I got to have 805 close by.
Okay. Cool.
805.
Cool.
Coors is for the celebration, and 805 is for the drinking.
Very cool. Well, guys, look, I definitely want to get to the nitty-gritty of this year before looking to 2023. But I've got to ask, Gregg, what is it like running a fuel car out of Oregon? That does not seem to be the typical place where a race shop in drag racing these days is going to have its roots in.
So that occurred to you too, huh? Yeah, no kidding. So yeah, being up here does not make it easier, and candidly, it makes events like PRI all that more important. It's the relationships that matter. But, you know, we are so blessed with some vendors that are stunningly supportive and helpful. Okay, Todd Patton with he used to be with Raceback. Now he's got his own business with his own computer company. The guy's incredible. I've called him evenings, weekends. I don't know how it works, but he's on the darn phone with me to help me out. And when he builds his new computer, we're putting one on the car because he's a year away or so. But the relationships are what matter. And thankfully now with emails and social media and stuff, I'm able to connect. But you're right. If I could have a shop back in Brownsburg, I'd love that. Oh my God, there's so much stuff back, vendors back there. It just makes it easy. You can drive across the street and get stuff done, and not so much here. So you're absolutely right. It's more challenging.
Challenges for you, Trevor. I mean, you're in Southern California. Do you get to go to the shop, you know, like once a month? You try to do that, or is that just not available to you, even in the current situation and with your role of, you know, getting TV for us to watch, you know, on CBS on cable for who has cable at least?
If there's something I need to be up there for, I will go up there. A big weekend or a car show or something that is substantial, and Gregg says, "Hey, I need you to be here," you know, or could you be here? I'll do what I can in my world. I happen to be a department head, so I can work remotely and make that kind of stuff happen. Not super easy, but it can be done. But I live in the home of drag racing, so I'm blessed enough to be around it on other levels, not just in the Gregg racing world. So I like where I'm at. Would I move? Yes, if something substantial came along to do that. But, you know, I'm always at a plane away, and it can be up there when needed.
Trevor, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on the 2022 season that you all did have. How many races? How were the results? What are the thoughts?
We did, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I think we did 5 national events and 3 regionals, and then a bunch of the feature car stuff at Woodburn, which we also use as testing. We learned a lot this season between certain things going. Gregg likes to take swings. We'll try something in left field. This worked and that didn't, but the outcome was this. Let's go back to center field, and then let's try a little bit to right field. We'll try different things to see what worked and what didn't. I matured as a driver. I know 100% from lights to feeling more comfortable in the car. I poured a seat this year. This is the first year I had a custom seat that was made for me, and not someone else who I'm driving for, who was a different size, different make, different shape, different whatever. There's so much to be said to the safety of these cars that NHRA implements. It's not just for them being a pain in the butt, which sometimes it is. Oh, you need to have a new helmet every 8 years. You need to have new seatbelts every 2 years. Yeah, it's a pain. They get out, they can be certified and all your stuff, and with new SFIs. But at the same time, it's all for your safety and your benefit. The custom seat was a huge success, and Gregg talked him into moving the pedal a good 16 inches back towards, or not 16 inches, excuse me, 6 to 8 inches back my way. So instead of me, how can I do this? Instead of me going like this with my throttle pedal with just my ankle, I'm now like this, and I'm pushing my whole leg like a karate chop. What has worked out for me as a person who knows music is beats, whether it's reading music and knowing when to come in, whether it's all that kind of stuff. I was a music student in high school and after high school. I can watch when the sequence of the last stage, all the ambers and green, has been my little bit of a trick to getting very good reaction times.
Well, can we talk about that pedal deal for a minute?
Sure.
So in 21, the pedal was in the same place as it was when I drove. And I'm tall. I'm 6'2". Trevor's, and he says it depends on which 7-Eleven he's coming out of, but he's like over 9 or something. But he's so, but the point was the pedal was where it was. And we ran okay. We had a match race, a night race at Woodburn, and he went 5:34 or 2:68 or something. Car ran well. So now he's saying, I need you to move the pedal. I'm thinking, that's crap. You ran good. How could you possibly need it? But his lights sucked, and things weren't working right. So for the winter, I caved in, and candidly, the pedal mount on the chassis that was there from Melanie driving was still there. I never took it off. So we moved the pedal to that location, and it was way closer for him. And the next outing, he had the 044 light. Well, if I may say, there are unintended consequences sometimes, and things are never easy. So we did that, and his lights got good. But there was another problem, that the brake arm lever wouldn't release all the way because his leg was further back. So we're dragging the brake going down the track at a couple hundred pounds of pressure, and the brakes are awesome. So that didn't help us. So we got that fixed, put a different brake handle on that would return to zero when he mashed the throttle. And then things started working, but it took time to sort all that crap out. It was just very challenging to do. But once we did, now we've got something to work with finally, and it's going to work well. I'm really happy. So I should have done it earlier, but I did, and it worked well, moving the pedal.
There's always something with a race car.
Oh my God, yeah.
It never ends. It's amazing how it can have won the race. You put it in the trailer and you roll it out and something has broke or is wrong. It's like, you went in good. What happened?
Yeah. The amount of maintenance on the car is overwhelming. It's true.
It's rare that John Force, I think you can count on one hand how many times he's not qualified. But I think one of the times he won the previous race. So exactly what you're saying, James, is you can be top dog one weekend and not even in the show the next.
I heard
that is
you
certainly
on
the case.
Part of your show where you were talking about Coletta. And I mean, how could you have more resources than the Coletta team?
Right.
And they, I guess, didn't perform as well as perhaps they would have liked to this last year. Well, you can't say that Doug Coletta doesn't know how to drive. You can't say they don't have enough resources. So what is it? It's not easy. So I know that when I was complaining about how hard this was years and years ago, I got some great advice from one of the legends of the sport. He looked down over his nose, over his glasses, and he said, Gregg, if it was going to be easy, the pits would be full of third-grade girls with A fuel cars. And there aren't any of those. It's just not easy. But I guess I'm just too stupid to quit. I always tell myself, this is so frustrating, I'm going to quit tomorrow. But for today, what could I do? I could do this, and I could do that, and I could do that, and that's what I do. And then tomorrow comes and I go, I'm quitting tomorrow. But for today, I could do this, and this, and this, and this, and we do it.
All right, 2023. What does it look like for Gregg Racing? Theoretically, how many races? What's the possibilities? What are the goals?
I would imagine our schedule will look a lot like last year. We plan on being at the new Winter Nationals in March, I guess now. Things are different. It's up to Trevor whether we make the spring Vegas race, but I would anticipate then we would make – I now heard that Woodburn's going to have that same back-to-back regional race like they did last year, which is handy. So we'll do that. And if Seattle has a points meet, we'd go Seattle National, and then back down, I presume, in the year again with Vegas and Pomona. But, oh, my gosh, I've learned so much. I hadn't run my car at Las Vegas since 2001, okay? There's a few things that have changed in the sport since 2001. Like we don't get 100% nitro anymore. So I knew the concepts of what to do, but I can't type concepts into the tune-up. You got to pick a number and put it in, and it works or it doesn't. So I was thrilled that I got the car to leave real well, but we're finishing the run with about 15 or 20 cylinders out, and I'm like, that ain't going to work. So I had to work on that. But I'm very anxious to get back out there. In fact, this isn't official, but we're talking about maybe doing some testing in February if we can get this together with another pro team. So that's been part of the fun, is the attention we've got, the relationships we've built. I'm just stunned. Why would you want to come talk to us? And yet they're in my pit. I'm talking big show car people and want to offer help. So we're going to go test together and run their hot rod, and we'll run ours. Stuff like that. And the connections we made at PRI. We didn't have any of that before. I'm elated.
I've worked my way through a lot of these teams on the pro level as a guy who was like, we were looking for guys for help. I was a volunteer guy, and I've shut my mouth and wrote a lot of coattails to learn and be a sponge and take all this stuff in. But even at that level, that gets you a baseline to learn from. The sport's changed so much in 5 years, let alone 10, 15 years. We're running speeds that Top Fuel was running. We were watching the Roku. NHRA has a great Roku channel on Roku. We were watching old, like, late 90s races and stuff, and they're running our speeds and times. I was like, oh my gosh, how much the sport's changed. Now they're running 1,000 foot and have different setups and stuff, but
yeah,
it's always all in the.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying all in the changing of the sport. It's constantly evolving, and the safety has to evolve with the speeds.
So I remember watching a video on Shirley Muldowney and one of her world championship years, just astounding what she accomplished. But they ended up back at their shop where they had the race car. It was in her garage in her house, okay? And she had a toter and a trailer that's smaller by quite a bit than what I have today. And I look at that and I go, oh my God, back in the day, if you had a good job and a buddy that had a good job and you both like NASCAR racing, you could go Top Fuel racing. But It's so different now. The buckets of money in it are very challenging. So it has changed. And what Top Fuel was running 10, 15 years ago is what we run now.
Well, gentlemen, at this point right now, the closest one is at Mocan Dragway, almost into Kansas, in Missouri on the border. But if you get a wild hair to do some Nitro Chaos racing with Chris Graves, myself, and many others, you're invited. Come on out. We'd love to see another A-Fuel dragster try to take off or try to knock off Megan Meyer, who came out and whipped everybody last year for the last Nitro Chaos there at Mocan.
That's a tall order right there, but we'd love to pick it up.
Megan is a great competitor. I love what she's done for the sport. I got in right as she got out, so it's been fun to like be have her as a mentor and do the Zoom calls like this and say, hey, sponsorship, what's this, what's that, and she'll tell you how to do things. It's pretty cool.
One of the best things I love about this, and I made a comment in my email to you earlier today about the NHRA family, is I'm up here at Woodburn. Joey and Sherry Severance own that track, world champ Joey Severance. Okay, he had a sticker on his car years ago that I absolutely loved. It said, "Enemies for 5 seconds, friends for life," and that's the way that it is. I'm going to do everything I can to break your heart and crush you up there when we're running our hot rods. But the moment we get back, if I'm out and you're in, I'll pull parts off my car to give them to you to make the next round. It's hard to define how exhilarating that is to feel like you're part of that family. It's awesome.
Well,
I have a challenge. Go ahead, James.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I have a challenge. You have a pretty wide fan base, and I know a lot of racers watch your stuff. I have a challenge for other drivers. Take time for kids. Put them in your car. Bring them in the pit. Show them the VIP experience. Sometimes it's their first time at a track or one of their first times. You can make all the difference by giving some effort and time to these kids. They're the future of this sport. I don't want to say the sport's dying. I've been at Pomona. I've been at Vegas. Those stands are packed. Whatever people are saying, oh, the sport's dying, BS. But the sport needs to grow. I wouldn't say it's dying. It's stuck. It needs to grow. We need to do other things. I have a ace in my sleeve. I get to talk to some of the higher ups at NHRA in a couple weeks. I have ideas that need to be given to someone. Hey, here's the football. Run with it. Go do something with this. It could be your, not a saving grace, but it could be your right direction and get nudged on the right path. I think kids are the answer to this.
We both of us have stories from our own childhood where we were at a racetrack as little kids and somebody let us feel like we were participating. I was at Balboa Drag Strip in Eugene, Oregon, where my dad used to run his front engine drag strip, because they all were then. And I never forget being in the pits with this fuel funny car, and he let me help him mix the fuel. Remember the hydrometer and check the percentage. Now, did I do anything valuable? Of course not. Didn't matter. I thought I did, and I got to help, and it changed my life. Like, I want to do this when I grow up. And Trevor's got similar stories too. And so we do that with kids. Man, it's unbelievable the amount of kids we put in our car, and the parents just feel really big on this. So come by our track. Got a kid, we'll put you in the car.
I love that you have those photos. I love letting kids in the car. Hey, come help me pack the chute. They think parachutes are the coolest thing, as did I as an 8-year-old. You know, I thought parachutes were the coolest thing. Now they're a pain in the ass to pack. I don't like doing my own bed sheets on my bed, let alone a parachute. But if you get the kids involved to do this kind of stuff, they love it. Oh, there's Benny. That's funny. They love this stuff. There's Benny too. So that whole thing, if I can't, I don't know if we're good on time. If I have one more story for you, James. This little boy Benny is the son of a friend of mine who works on a funny car team also in Woodburn. Benny came over and was like, "Hi," and I'm like, "Hey, little guy," and he goes, "My dad works on a funny car." I was like, "Okay, cool." And then that was it. He was in like a hummingbird and gone. I was like, okay. 5 or 6 hours later, he came back and we were taking the awning down, so we moved the car forward. I said, "You want to get in the car?" "Yes." So I put him in the car, and he's, doing what our kids do and trying to steer the butterfly wheel and having fun. And a couple races later, his dad texts me and goes, "Hey, Benny won't stop talking about you. He wants to see his friend. He wants to see his friend Trevor." I'm like, oh, just like got me in the heart, pushed all the buttons, So come more races, there's Benny. So I just did a little video with him saying, "Hey, I did a quick 5 questions," and it got so much response on social media. I then did it again the next race, and I did a whole video with him, and I walked him around. We made him, as you saw in that one photo, I made him a tiny crew shirt of ours. But he also has now a Dodger hat. I'm a Dodger fan from LA. He has a Dodger hat. He has a crew shirt. He is an official, mini Trevor fan club president. As funny as it is, and as cute as it is, at the autograph signing at the Fremont Street Experience at the Vegas race, NHRA does a thing on Thursday nights with all the drivers that want to come down, and they have people stand in line. It doesn't start till 7 o'clock. People were in line at 2, they said. I was blown away at the diehard fans that came out in droves for this autograph signing. But someone came by and goes, "Is Benny going to be at this race?" And I said, "You know Benny?" She goes, "I don't know Benny. I just follow your guys' videos." I go, "Oh my gosh, what are the odds of this? This little silly thing I started in Woodburn, Oregon has gotten all the way to Las Vegas and beyond on social media."
Trevor's really good with that. It's awesome.
And that is the great thing about social media. If it's used rightly and done rightly, you can reach people you never thought you would reach. And I understand the power of social media. That has been the same for me and my short, brief career in all of this. And by the way, the adults want to sit in the car too.
Yeah. So we did that at Pomona at this last race because we didn't make the show. It was the fastest field in NHRA top alcohol history. the bump was, I think, a 31 or even lower than that. So we didn't quite make that. We would have made it at the beginning of the season, but not at the end of the season. So we took our car over to the Hot Rod Corral and put it on display with Tyler Hilton, Jeff Deal, a couple other Redline Oil sponsored racers, and we joined the corral there. And we put kids in the car and adults, and they were like, "I've never seen this before. This is cool. You guys are doing this." You know, what I found is you put the kid in the car, and mom or dad goes, "Well, can I get in the car?" They want to be included too. It's like, yeah, this is for everybody. We give that hands-on experience, whether it's, hey, here's like our clutch guy Chris was showing people how the valve cover comes off. They never seen, 8 spark plug wires in one side of the car before. They're like, wow, there's so many. It's like, those mags, you can weld with those mags. They put out so much amperage that people don't understand, because they're still watching from the stands, watching them go by at 280 plus miles an hour. There's a whole science. So when I go talk to kids at schools and in person, I tell them to pay attention to math and science. If I would have known how much math and science I use in drag racing of all things, I would have paid way more attention into all this stuff.
Social media. Check this out. So I got married to my bride 17 years ago, October 1st. And I've had a video from that time I just never did anything with. I drove my A fuel car to our wedding. Okay. It was, yeah, no kidding. On country roads about 20 miles from where we live right now. And we debated for a year as we were prepping for this wedding, should we get a hold of the sheriff and police department and ask for permission, or should we just wait and ask for forgiveness and we get caught? So we never asked for anything, so we chose the forgiveness option. So I've had this video forever. I posted it on October 1st, and it's just me driving the car to the wedding. It's now got almost 200,000 views on the darn thing. Like, oh my God, that's been unbelievably popular. And some people wrote in some awfully kind things. So that was awesome. Then I started, I guess mostly this year, doing some what I call tech talk, Nitro Tech Talk videos. I'd never seen anybody share some of the behind the scenes stuff. Now, I'm not telling everything I know about a tuning car, but there's a lot that I can share that I've never seen before. So I started putting these little videos out, and oh my God, it just exploded. These people are rabidly in favor of, I want to learn more because I can't get this anywhere else. So we share info I haven't seen anywhere else. Maybe somebody's done it, but I haven't seen it. We've got people from Australia and all over Europe that are following this stuff. I'm just humbled that they give a crap to want to watch, but we try to produce good content that folks want to watch and share our experience with them, because we know what it's like to be part of something bigger than yourself like this. It's unbelievably cool, and it's
we're that traveling circus.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, look, I hope that all of that transpires into a spectacular 2023 season. And for Gregg Racing and Trevor Larkin, y'all can say that 2023 is the best season to date. So keep up the good work. Look, last question, give you the floor, both of you. Who all do you need to say thank you to? Take time for that.
Oh, gosh. So NGK came on board before I even had a license. I was literally walking back from the bathroom at Pomona, and I walked through the midway, and I said, who does your sponsorship stuff? And the girl says, I do. I said, I drive A, B, and C. I'm about to drive D in different classes. And she goes, oh, well, that's not just one class of marketing, it's 3 classes, whatever I was driving, and that's 3 times the exposure, and she saw the value in teaming up with someone that has the 3 times the classes. And I was actually working on a different guy's car at the time, and I brought it to his team, and I was just going to the restroom. So NGK was the first one. Permatex came on board.
I'm sure that wasn't in the Megan Meyer how to get a sponsor.
That one, yeah. That one was not. And we actually saw her the other day at PRI, and she got to tell the stories. Like, yeah, this is true. This is completely what happened. Is just literally walking back from the bathroom. You know what it was? I commented on her perfume because I knew what the perfume was. As awkward as that was, I knew what her perfume was. And she's like, okay, creeper. And it actually it opened the door for conversation.
No perfume.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was NGK, Permatex. I have to thank Clean Boost. Clean Boost was on with us last year, and Brett and the guys there are awesome. They helped us with the racer discounts and all the stuff that they do. They help a lot of racers out there. I highly recommend their product as well. Redline Oil came on. A friend of mine, Mark, is their marketing and motorsports guy. He says, hey, we love what you do with the kids and the personality of the sport and what you bring to this. And it's kind of fun to be involved with you, and we'd love to do it. So they were the last one that came on board towards the end of this last season. It's been awesome since, and we have them through next year, and we'll see what the future brings.
All right. Very cool. Very cool. Gregg, you, man.
Yes, sir. The other sponsor that Trevor missed was the Tub-A-Towel folk. We got hooked up with these people, and oh my gosh, these are awesome. In addition, they sent us their own version of penetrating oil called Freol. And I thought, okay, a penetrating oil. I've had a million penetrating oils, and it's probably not much push. I used it, and I was stunned. It actually is awesome, and that's all I use now. It's a fantastic product. So from a sponsorship level, Tub-A-Towel and Freol. We're going to have samples at the track. They're going to hook us up. So come by our pit, and I'll give you a sample. You can try it for yourself. On the thanks part, though, beyond sponsors, I want to mention our crew. Keith McCurdy did top end with me for 18 years. He's now taken some time away for his business. I've got on bottom end and fuel mixologist, because it's a massive job to keep that fuel legal and yet the best it can be. And so I've got Josh Cutlip does our fuel. New guy this year with Lauren Parr helping out on the bottom end. And then our car chief, clutch dude, is Chris Moody, or Derbs to us. That guy is brain dead passionate about not just drag racing, but about our team. I've never seen anybody be more all in. Sometimes it's a little too much all in. But oh my God, you never wonder whether Derbs is with you in heart and soul. And he works his tail off on that. There's the crew. However, the biggest thanks I could ever offer, with all possible respect to all the efforts and energies those gentlemen have put in, all those pale in comparison to the one. And that's my bride, Robbie. We've been doing this together for 30 years, and she's been there when I drove and I threw the rods out, and I don't have a spare motor at that time. And I get out and I'm sitting on the wall as they're cleaning up the mess, and she'd come over and put her arm around me and say, it's okay, we'll make it work. And I was ready to give up, and she's always there. She's got massive skin in the game, because we've had to sacrifice a thing or two along the way, and yet she's been unbelievably supportive. So my biggest thanks is always to my bride, Robbie. She's the one I drove that A fuel car to for our wedding, and I regret none of it. We had a great time, and the video's on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. I'd love to have you check it out.
Don't forget Mike Scott. Don't forget Mike Scott. He's our guy who came on board.
This guy can cook like you can't freaking believe. He showed up and just with a plate of food. He was on some other team, so he had this ribs and mac and cheese and barbecued beans. And I ate that, and I go, you're not a rookie. This is really good. I've never had stuff this good. So we recruited him, and he started cooking for us. Then the car he was helping on, their season was done. So we threw him in the toter with Derbs and I, headed south for Vegas and Pomona, and he went with us and cooked for us and the teams around us, because they could smell the barbecuers, and so they'd come get the food from him. He is amazing, and I want him back forever. I don't know if he'll come back, but he is amazing. You're absolutely right. I left him out. Cookie Man's his name.
All of a sudden, we were the most popular pit in that row. It was crazy how that all worked out.
Yeah, hey, be the pit with the food, and you'll definitely be the most popular one.
Yeah,
sure.
Right.
Well, guys, look, I hope that you become popular over wins, and you become that much more popular over your interaction with kids and the fans. and beyond, and for your sponsors. Keep up the good work. Thank y'all for coming on tonight. This has been a fun one. I appreciate it. Yeah. Trevor, look forward to seeing great things out of you, and Gregg, as same to you as well.
Thank you, sir. It's been an absolute honor.
Well, gentlemen, y'all have a good night. We're going to move on.
Very well. Thank you.
All right, good night. Thanks, everybody.
The drag racing life and the RV life seem to go hand in hand like nitromethane and superchargers. And when you are traveling through the Lone Star State and you're needing work done on your RV, well, DFW RV Center is your star to contact.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching Between the Slicks tonight with Trevor Larkin and Gregg Lawrence. Gregg Lawrence, the team owner, Trevor Larkin, the driver of that A Fuel machine. Definitely hope they have a great 2023. You can tell there's some cool cats in the NHRA. By the way, take some time the next time you're at an NHRA national event and stroll through the Sportman pits. Alcohol Funny Car, the Alcohol Dragster guys, and beyond. There are some great people in those pits that you need to know about, just like Trevor Larkin and Gregg Lawrence. By the way, don't just go to a national event, but go to the regionals and divisionals and get to experience drag racing for the NHRA at those times and those levels as well. David Hewitt, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, says hello from Australia. Hello from United States of America to you, David. Doing a great job, Lee. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I do want to inform everybody. So Matt Clark, he's a fellow that watches from Australia, and he routinely messages me. Thank you, Matt, for doing that, even if I do not get to you as quickly as I should. Well, he messaged me and informed me about the gentleman that's got, I can't find it right now, but he gave me the email to the guy that's got the funky like fuel altered front engine dragster / funny car thing down there in Australia. And I've got his email. I need to send that guy an email, and we're going to have him on Between the Slicks before long too. Again, right here on Between the Slicks, we're willing to talk about it all in drag racing. From the All-in Islands, like with Ida Zetterstrom, to Southern California with Trevor Larkin, and Oregon with Gregg Lawrence, or even all the way from down under. We'll talk about it. Why? Because this is Between the Slicks. Hit the like button, hit the share button for me, subscribe to the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, God bless, and keep the pedal to the metal.
Hero Soap Company is a veteran-owned establishment that produces all-natural, essential oils-infused soap that is sold with a portion of the proceeds supporting other veteran groups. Hero Soap Company. Heroes supporting heroes. Be a hero yourself and buy a bar and let freedom clean.